All these politics checking off the list, religious hypocrites trying to sell me other doctrine, trying to sell me something for my soul, trying to sell me something for my soul. Now, fiery-eyed brimstone teachers trying to tell me something different, but I ain't gonna listen. No, I'ma start my own religion. I'ma start my own religion. We're gonna get started. I got roses growing in my backyard. Every soul that's lost is a tear from God, and I'm hopeful that one day we'll see every wall we've built will crumble. All the benefits that the richer people get is the poor get poor and the wealthy get rich. Now, I don't think it makes a difference. Chrome a diamond, real affliction. There's a TV switches and the salmon gives you pictures out of scrolling, keeps you twitching, but to know there's something different. Now you feel like you're the one that's in control, but are you really in control?
We don't. Y'all just know that when the timer ends is when I'm going to start the show, just so you all know. Kevin Hawthorne, thanks for stopping by, dude. We appreciate it. RT365, thanks for stopping by. Vanity Shape, I know it's got to be late for you, so thank you for hanging out. And yeah, I just felt like it was the right thing to do a recap and then answer any questions and then go through some comments because of the series that I just released, where we put out a new show every single day at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. And of course, many of you saw it. Many of you heard me talk about Canon and bring stuff forward about Canon that I haven't over the years. And it doesn't mean that Canon's the only one, by the way. We see you, but we do not hear you. Okay, so this is really interesting. It's telling me that it's there. Huh. I was gonna check, so bear with me, guys. I gotta figure out what's happening here. All right. It's telling me that it's there. Okay, so I was going to check. For whatever reason, it appears that my sound is working. Hey, Carlos, we hear you. Awesome. Thanks, Anthony, for clarifying that. RT365, thank you for clarifying that. Cool, so audio is working. Thank you. So yes, I was basically saying, right, so I released a bunch of videos, 5 of them to be exact, and the whole intent was to sort of create a series, kind of like what we would see on Netflix. Obviously, it's just monologue, it's me talking, it's me sharing my opinion. There are some reasons why I did it that way. Besides experimenting, I think that that's really healthy to do, to try to figure out what motivates people. 2, for me personally, it's all about, like, I've been watching Netflix series, and I love when a series is released and then you get all the episodes and you can watch them.
I couldn't quite hear you.
Yeah, so I wasn't talking to Siri, but I like it when I can watch the series at my own pace. And I also like the other approach in series, streaming series, like The Walking Dead, for example, where I know I can watch an episode and I can watch backlog episodes, but I can't watch the next episode until the following week. So this was a little bit of an experiment. And when I wrote the series, I needed to find a way to write in a cliffhanger that might propel someone who saw the episode to watch the next one. That was my objective. So from a selfish standpoint, I wasn't so concerned about watch time on YouTube as I was about someone maybe watching 3 of the 5 episodes or all 5 episodes and maybe possibly subscribing. That was a business objective of mine. The second objective, I'm going to dive into once this timer thing runs out so that we can all sort of benefit. But the reason why I'm hanging out with you all like this now really is I'm waiting for YouTube to notify people who have subscribed to the channel, who might have seen the post, that we in fact are going live. And for whatever reason, it's my understanding that YouTube waits 10 minutes to see if something is going to be put on a good server or on a slower server. And that's why I have this timer running, essentially saying we're going to start in about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. But I thought I'd give you guys, a little bit of background as to why it is that I decided to experiment with the series. And I experiment a lot on YouTube. You guys know this. For the most part, when I'm talking on YouTube or when I'm sharing on YouTube, it's a way for me to journal. This series is actually way heavier on the business objective side. And I kind of alluded to it, and I might have said it without actually saying it in the bonus episode that I published this week, where I just said, hey, we're having coffee and we're having a candid conversation. And I want to go over that. And I also want to read some of the comments that I've gotten from, many people over the series, and then sort of address both my take and then answer the questions, because I haven't been super crystal clear with my answers in the comments on purpose, because the series ended today. And there are some really valid points, and then there are other points that I just need to make sure that I clarify so that none of you think that I'm completely crazy, because I think that that's really important. So there we go. We're just 2 more minutes. If you guys can just hang in there. Again, I appreciate you all for taking the time to join in on this weekend. And of course, we're having a typical wind down weekend day. And this lipstick, by the way, that you guys may or may not be able to see. Oh, there you go. You can definitely see it when the sunlight hits it. It's not my lipstick, it's Bert's, and Bert's sharing a glass with me. I'll tell you guys what though. So many of you know I'm in North Dakota. And this weekend is the first time that we've gone into no, that's not true. It is the first time that we've gone into the 80-degree plus range multiple days. In the past, we've gone, from our typical 40-degree weather to 85-degree weather, and then right back down to freezing. But this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's been really hot. So like outside today, 84 degrees. I'm warm. I'm not used to this super warm weather. Yeah, 1 minute and 43 seconds. You know what? We're going to start saying hello to everybody who joined in. So again, thank you everyone for taking the time to spend some of your weekend here with me. I'm just going to kill the timer because we're just going to get right into it. So again, thanks for spending the weekend. Really appreciate you all. So let's see, Max, Carlos, you're in for it. You're going against Max Cannon Goon. You know what? This is a tell-all episode, Max. So whatever questions you have, I am going to answer them. Candidly, openly, transparently. So bring it on. I'm looking forward to it. Darrington Jones, thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. So yeah, this is one guy who absolutely has followed and commented on my videos over the years. And I really appreciate the feedback, because different perspectives from different people is what allow us all to grow. And I think that is very important. And sometimes, even when our feelings get hurt, taking in feedback make us grow. So just keep that in mind and know when you're commenting, even if I don't like your comment at the time, I'm growing from your comments. So there you go. Kevin Hawthorne, thanks for stopping by, dude. Really appreciate it. And let's see, RT365, thanks, man. I popped that thumbnail together in a few seconds, but as you can see, I reused a lot of assets. But the fact is that there are a lot of good things, which is why I'm doing a thumbs up, that I want to make sure that I let you all know and bring you all in on. So we have a cloudy day and the exposure is going to be changing because I didn't set up any lights because it's the weekend. And yeah, we're just going to do this. So sorry, Vanity Shape, about that. I think when I had the sound effect going, it was basically muting my voice. So sorry about that. Jacob, thanks for stopping by. And again, thanks for letting me know that you could hear me. Really appreciate it. It's another guy, big supporter of the channel, always commenting, always providing his feedback, a working pro, someone you guys should make sure you pay attention when he's talking, because Jacob has a lot of hands-on experience in a lot of the different things that we are all working on. So really appreciate him. Vanity Shape, yeah, cool, thanks. I'm glad you heard me. And Vanity Shape, in case you guys don't know, this guy, like from an imaging standpoint, color standpoint, like at a technical level, if he's typing something, you all should be paying attention. That is the best part about this community that we're building. That's the best part about the interaction, right? We don't always have to agree. It doesn't always have to be about gear, but the tidbits that every single professional drops in the comments after, whether it be a rant video, a live video, or any other kind of video that I'm putting out, the feedback out of the community, we have a lot of professionals, and I am thankful from the bottom of my heart for every single one of you that chooses to contribute, because it helps every single one of us grow. Seriously, can't say thank you enough. All right, so Danny and G. Hi, what's your thoughts on Red Comodo versus Canon C300 Mark II? I'm aware of the differences in terms of utilities and workflows. In terms of investment value, which one is better? This is a tough question, Danny, from the sense that the best investment, in other words, the camera that's going to make you the most money in the shortest amount of time, is absolutely the Canon C300 Mark III. The Red Comodo, it's a very good camera. It's a camera you can pick up and go shoot a feature film with. It's a camera that doesn't compromise on image quality at all. There are lots of other compromises that happen with that camera. Some of them are easy to work around, others aren't so much. But at the end of the day, the Red Comodo is a cinema camera that is expecting a cinema camera quality lighting budget and a cinema camera quality crew and rigging. Can you get by with less? And the answer is yes. But if you want to get the most out of that camera, what I'm doing right now, for example, where I'm shooting with natural light, is not enough to stop the noise that would happen in the gradients on the walls in the background and deeper down past the room where I'm sitting. And noise reduction is real. It's using a Dragon sensor, not a helium sensor, which is newer, and not a Monstro sensor, which is, again, same age as helium, which really means you're using older technology. Yes, it's a global shutter, but I would argue that many of the cameras, and in fact, Phil Holland, if you guys don't know who he is, be sure to look him up. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, read everything. Phil Holland is a master at what he does. And when he shoots his aerials, right, which if you have Apple TV as an example, and if you've seen that shot of downtown Los Angeles at night, he's on a helicopter and he shot that with Monstro. I don't see any rolling shutter problems. I don't see any skewing of buildings or straight lines in any way. That is like, I feel like he could do a master class on how he got that exposure, that level of detail, and that level of sophistication in terms of what that shot entails. And he didn't do it with a global shutter camera. So from my perspective, if I could only afford one, if I could only bring one of those cameras into my kit, the C300 Mark III or the Red Comodo, the C300 Mark III is going to be way more forgiving when it comes to lighting budget, way more forgiving when it comes to crew budget, and the image quality. I'm going to say this loosely, okay? It's on par between the two. And yes, it does take a little bit of work to take the digital edge off of the C300 Mark III image to make it more, to soften the edges. I'm just going to use that term to try to explain what I'm saying, to soften the edges and have it mimic more of Comodo. But color depth, color quality, image quality, all of that is going to be dependent on the lens that you put in front of that camera. If you put a Rokinon lens in front of Comodo, you're going to get a Rokinon quality image. Whereas if you put a Canon CP2, CP3, Canon Zeiss CP2, CP3, or a Canon L lens on Comodo, that's the image that you're going to expect. The sensors, the image processing can only resolve what the lens shows them. So keep that in mind as you're making your selection. And you know, I've seen a lot of people shoot some really cool stuff on some less than ideal lenses. I'm not one of those people. And because I can't help myself and I end up pixel peeping, I need better lenses. And then that's how I'm sharing sort of my discerning and the different things that I'm seeing on camera. And I think that that's important for everybody to understand and know. You know, I realize that Sigma makes a lot of really great lenses. I don't shoot with them. Never have, likely won't. That's just who I am. And it doesn't mean I'm right. But for the projects that I shoot, like if I had my way, everything that I shoot would be shot on Arri Master Primes. So, and I realize that that's not possible because budgets are real. So I'm just going to move on from that. I don't want to beat that to a dead horse. But if you're running your own operation and you had to pick just one camera, I'd go with the C300 Mark III 9.5 out of 10 times. The half thing would really be ego versus responsibility, or being responsible to myself and to my company. And that's just the truth. This is a tell-all episode, so I'm putting it out there for what it is. Martian Citizen, thanks for joining. Really appreciate it when you do, man. I just love your name, by the way. Let's see. I have 2 card slots. Yeah, so then there's that. That's a big conversation all of its own. And what's really interesting is that you look at the cameras that a lot of people aspire to have, right? Red cameras or Arri cameras. 1 card slot. It just is what it is. Okay, yep, there you are, Max. Of course you are. RT365, just imagine covering so many cameras in few videos. I'm still making videos about my A6300. The A6300 is a good camera. It's a good camera for a lot of reasons. And Bert and I were having a conversation a couple of days ago about some of the still images, okay, not video projects, but still images that are some of my favorite that we were thinking about having them printed and framed and then given away as gifts to someone that lives in Portland. I took those pictures with a Sony camera, and it happened to be the A6300, or maybe it was a 6500. I don't remember. It was one of those two cameras, but we went on a trip to Portland. That was the only camera that I brought. We were out like early morning. It was just a beautiful day with the right type of clouds in the sky, the right type of mix of white and gray and blue and cyan and a bunch of colors. And I took a lot of different bridge pictures. I wish I had them on this computer. I would totally share them. But effectively, the best pictures that I think I've ever taken, if I'm like transparent with myself, they were taken with the Sony camera, and it was a crop sensor camera at that. So just keeping it real. Armando, thanks for joining, man. Really appreciate it. Yeah, so the series ended today. I figured I would do a tell-all and then answer questions and then respond to some comments. It felt like the right thing to do. So, okay, cool. Anthony, thanks for joining. Really appreciate you too, man. Good evening from the UK. Canon works for me, but then again, exclusively with the C500 Mark II. So no worries about color between cams. So that's a fact, right? Anytime that you can shoot with the exact same camera or a copy of that camera, same model, and you're doing a multicam shoot, life is really easy. And it isn't until you actually go through that you realize, why have I taken so long to get to that point? And that was really one huge point in what it is that I was attempting to accomplish with that series. I wanted to make sure that I shared with all of you that sometimes, instead of collecting cameras, right, instead of buying 3 or 4 or 5 different cameras, like for example, instead of buying a Sony a7S III, a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro, a Comodo, a C70, you would benefit way more if you committed to a camera and then just bought more than one of that camera. Your life gets easier. And it doesn't matter if you're heavily invested in Canon and that's the way you want to continue. Easiest way to progress is to make sure you buy 2 of whichever cameras there are. If you're a 1DX Mark III user and you need a second camera, buy a second 1DX Mark III. Sony is giving us more options, right? The fact that they're able to allow us to have the same sensor with similar images or similar image processing out of the Sony a7S III, the FX3, and the FX6, even if the image processing isn't identical, if you expose properly and shoot both of those cameras in S-Log3, S-Gamma3 Cine, your corrections in post-production are identical. There is no rethinking what you would do to process your image, even if the cameras themselves are doing something slightly different, which maybe they are. Maybe they're applying more or less sharpening or more or less noise reduction. But if you expose 4 S-Log3, S-Gamma3 Cine properly on any of those 3 cameras, and I have the test and I have the footage that I'm willing on sharing with all of you. If you do it, whatever corrections you apply to the first clip from the first camera will carry over to the others without any additional tweaking. And if somebody wants to argue that, then that means they either missed their white balance, missed their exposure, or screwed up their IRE values. I'm just going to leave it at that until I release the next video where I'm actually showing exactly what I just said. Because I think that that was an argument that I saw in a comment, and I'll get to the comments here in a few, but that is a fact. Whereas I cannot do that with any Canon camera if it's not the same Canon camera. So if I'm shooting with two Canon EOS Rs, yeah, whatever I apply to Canon A or camera A, I can apply to Canon B. But if I'm shooting with a Canon EOS R, an R5, and a 1DX Mark III, I need 3 different corrections. Even if they're easy, they add up in time, particularly not just on that single project, but over the lifespan of how long you keep that camera. And that's a fact. And if anybody wants to argue that, I would love to see their workflow and put your money where your mouth is. Like, show us all how exactly it is that you're able to do or replicate any one adjustment and have it transfer over across all the different Canon brands. Because that answer is, it's not possible. It simply isn't. And I'm not being an ass about it. It's just, I mean, I live in that space. I have a C70, I have an R5, I have a C500 Mark II, and I've had other Canon cameras over my career. And it's never ever transferred from one to another. And what's worse, for all of you, without spoiling the future videos, I have shot on every camera in Canon's lineup right now and have test footage for me to experiment with, and for every single channel member to experiment with themselves too. So if you're a channel member, that's coming. Just know that you're going to get access to all these clips, and you're going to get access to the exposure formula that was used for each of the clips, as well as what my corrections are, so that you all can decide how accurate my content and information is, as well as what you would do different. Maybe in your recipe, it would be slightly more X versus Y. And you'll have the ability to do that so that you can prep your projects, your LUTs, if you're creating your own LUTs, or your power grades to speed up your post-production so you can keep more cash in your pocket. That's the benefit of testing. That's the benefit of understanding the ups and downs and plus and minuses of each camera, or what is the optimal ISO for color versus dynamic range, which hopefully we can get to a video about that, but I'm going to need to bring in some heavy hitters to help me explain that in a way that makes me not so wordy, because that's another comment that I saw where someone said, I'm a little wordy. So there you go. Let's keep going through this. Let's see here. Okay, so let's see. Hi Moeller, I saw the 2021 camera shootout a few days ago. Comodo came in last. What went wrong there, and how do you shoot beautiful raw files with the Comodo? So Comodo is going to give you the best possible images based on your lens selection. And for that shootout that you're talking about, specifically there, Hui, I hope that's how I'm supposed to say your name. I chose a vintage lens, and I have a new video that will be released where I went with a modern lens. Very different, and Komodo's badass. I'm not going to take anything away from Comodo. Comodo is a terrific camera. It just is. Okay, let's see. Max, here comes Canon cameras matching. First off, those cameras are modular cameras. C500 Mark II, C500 Mark III, C200. These are tanks. You mount them on tanks and get shot by 80 millimeter bullets. That's what they're for. Well, I will say this. If someone is using a C500 Mark II or a C300 Mark III for web-only content, then their web-only content is going to look superior to someone who is shooting with an 80D or a 90D or a 70D. But streaming and social media, they are the great equalizers because they don't care what codec you shot in, how you processed your image, or what quality you're uploading. They are going to destroy it to the best of their ability. And for me, what that actually equals these days is that I want to shoot everything in the highest possible quality so that when social media, streaming, YouTube, Vimeo, and so on butcher what I'm seeing on my high resolution 4K or 8K display, that it more closely resembles what my intent was. And that's a struggle that we're all facing. And that's a struggle that until monitoring tools become more affordable, few people are going to understand. And the best analogy that I can make so that you all can get a sense or gauge things is back in the day, Armando Rubidium and myself, we shot a video where we compared my Helium 8K, so 8K RAW out of the Helium, a red camera, against the RAW out of the Canon C200. And on a regular 1080 display or 1440 display or even 4K display, the differences were almost non-existent. And then this weird thing happened where I just had to get my hands on an 8K display. So I bought one. And I brought that same footage into my 8K display, and all of a sudden, everything that I thought was negligible to equal was dramatically, if not drastically different, as in not in the same solar system difference. And that's something that social media is not going to allow us to see. And it's something that you have to experience for yourself in person in front of a high resolution display with the right calibration, right? So it has to be 100% DCI-P3. It has to be 100% sRGB so that you can begin to see the differences. Because if you don't have the ability to monitor everything that the sensor is giving you, then it's easy to dismiss things. And that then, of course, goes into what are you being hired to do? Are you being hired to work and deliver for social media? And is that where your content is going to live? Will the majority of the people only ever see your content on a cell phone? And then you make the decisions based on what that budget is and what the deliverable is as to which tool you pick. And that's actually how we run the business now. Exactly what I just said. What is the deliverable? What is the budget? And then we choose the tools that are going to allow us to do the highest possible quality within that budget that maximizes the effectiveness of that deliverable. Okay, so I'm going to go through that later. Okay. Jindapati. I don't know how to say this name, sorry. I like Canon series, about to get into one of the systems, and those clips really helped. I'm glad they helped. So here is the hidden motive behind my series. And I say hidden because it's hidden in that I didn't share with all of you. But what I hope to get out of this series is not just to share my thoughts with all of you and begin the dialogue, but also to begin this dialogue that has already started to happen, where a lot of you agree with me. A lot of you have faced similar challenges as I have. And maybe just maybe, and if we all cross our fingers, it could happen, someone at Canon looks at the series, looks at your own feedback, not just me talking, but what you all are saying, and says, hey, this is what people want, or if we're able to do X amount for them, we could actually help them. That was my objective. If somehow we could get a word out to the people that are making the decisions as to what they release, how they release it, how they present it, in a way that shows that they're taking us into account, I think that that would be really, really helpful. I think we all win. And I don't think me saying to Canon, hey, your marketing tells me that every single one of your cameras can capture in Canon log, but Canon log doesn't match, is beating up on Canon, but rather challenging Canon to say, can we make them all match? Even if they're all being, the images being processed differently on different chips with different image processors built into the cameras. Can we get them closer? Because if they can, I think Canon hits a home run. And the second objective for me, again, I call them my business objectives, was for Canon to understand that other companies are in fact working in that direction. And I think that's really important, because if they, as big as Canon is, I think that they can say, this is what we're making available, and you all take it or leave it or find a workaround or buy 5 of our products to figure out how to make what you need done. I think that they can say that. But I think they will win more hearts, more souls, more people if they can help us fix our problems. And if they don't already understand their competition, they should pay attention. Because their competitors, I'm going to tell you, for me, FX6, Sony a7S III, I have 0 problems using both of those cameras in a multicam environment and getting them to line up with the exact same adjustment. In fact, now when I color correct, color grade my clips and get them ready for delivery and I'm in Resolve, instead of making a clip adjustment, I make a timeline adjustment. That's how close the two of them work for me. And I think that that's huge. And that's not something that I could do with Canon. So basically what I do in Resolve now is I set up my timeline, I do my rough cut, because I still do my finishing in Premiere or Final Cut, depending on what the deliverable is. If it's episodic, it's Premiere. If it's a one-off, it's in Final Cut. So when I do my rough cuts, I then switch to a timeline correction. I pick my hero shot, whatever one of my hero shots is, and I make all of my corrections on that hero shot. And of course, because I'm applying them to the entire timeline, I just finished. That's how good it works. And that's not something I can do with Canon. And that's what I need Canon, I hope Canon, to take away from my 5-day series. And if Sony watches it, I hope Sony takes the same thing away and they figure out how to make it even easier and faster for everybody that chooses Sony. Because it's that fucking good. Like, it's that good. It just is. Let's look at more comments. Great work, bro. Much respect for not going the same route as other YouTubers. So, you know, from my perspective, I have to keep it real. And good, bad, indifferent. Like, I am who I am. What you're seeing is what you get. And those people that know me, like Armando, which I don't know if he's still in the chat or not, will tell you in real life, this is what you get, right? It's not great. It's not perfect. It's not always nice. But I'm going to tell it how it is, because it affects all of us, right? Like, we're trying to make a living. We're not just trying to review cameras. Like, that's not what we do. There are channels that's what they need to do, to keep their channel moving forward and to stay on theme. But that's not what this channel is about. So what you see is what you get. Are you always going to like it? Probably not. Am I going to apologize about it? Probably not. Do I appreciate you though? Yes. Do I respect you and your time? Absolutely. So hopefully what I put in my thumbnail and what I choose to use as my title give you the ability to make a decision about whether you want to watch or not watch, or skip at that time, or whatever that might be. Because I really do value you, every single one of you, and your time. And I don't, I said it in a video earlier this week, I don't upload videos to piss people off. I don't upload videos to waste people's time. I also don't upload videos to increase my watch time. And that's just the truth, because I'm not a full-time YouTuber. If I was ever to get there, I'll be honest with you all and tell you, I need to increase my watch time. So anything you can do to help, please do. And by the way, if you do want to do that, thank you. Right? So there you go. Let's see. Vanity shape. Unless you use 6 Blackmagic pocket cameras on the same project, then you realize that the same cameras, but few of them have differences in color despite same white balance, etc. So, I actually said this in a previous video, and actually one of the reasons why I moved away from Blackmagic cameras. I'm not going to take anything away from Blackmagic cameras in general. Great value proposition, great price points, great color. Everything that the camera is able to do is great. The discrepancies between multiple cameras, the quality control issues created lack of trust in me. And because I don't do free work and my day rate is not the least expensive one in the market that I serve, I'm not going to potentially compromise myself and my reputation, which is why I don't go Blackmagic. And that doesn't mean that that's a bad option, and it doesn't mean that every camera sucks or that their cameras can't compete in the market. They absolutely can. The possibility that one could let me down is one reason why I won't go in that direction. Fortunately for me, in my career, Canon cameras have never, ever let me down. Not once. Which is one huge reason why Canon has gotten a lot of my loyalty. That's just, again, being totally transparent and honest here. So Max, by the way, the events you wanted multicam shoot, the venue hire is $15,000. The last time I worked on a $15,000 project, Max, was probably more than 10 years ago. The average price, the lowest price on a project that I work on now starts at about $42,000, $45,000. So there you go. Just, again, being transparent because we're doing a tell-all. Darrington Jones, I almost bought the Sony a7S III, but went with the R5 because I have Canon glass and I do a lot of photography. I'm truly regretting that decision because the H.265 codec. What do you think? So my answer is going to be skewed based on the hardware that I use. So the H.265 codec, with whatever they've done to optimize the software, whether it be Resolve or Premiere Pro at this point. H.265 codec, 4K out of the R5. I can play back at 24 frames per second without dropping any frames on my computer. Skimming, sometimes it's a little glitchy. Most times it isn't. So the H.265 problem is not affecting me as bad as it was when it was originally released, which at that point, like, it made me want to only shoot in 8K RAW because that played back without any problems. I can edit without any problems. And the H.265 codec would literally cripple my computer, even though it's a very expensive computer. But nowadays, it's almost not an issue. So I think that as software optimization continues to improve, it'll get better. If you do a lot of photography, which of course you mentioned that you do, 50 megapixels is better than 12 because it just is, right? That's one of the reasons why, for me and for what we do, the still side of what we do, we are actively and seriously considering just jumping ship to medium format. So yeah, I don't know. I think I would have picked the same thing because I did, in fact, pick the R5 because of the 50 megapixels. Okay, so we have Chaco. Hi Carlos, I have a problem with monitor my C300 Mark III. I shoot in C-Log 2 RAW or XFAVC and monitor that with the built-in Rec 709 LUT. So what's the problem? Because generally speaking, it should be fine, right? Oh, that looks great on the monitor, but when I import the files in Resolve and put the Canon Rec 709 conversion LUT, the color are super magenta and off from what's shown on camera. Okay, so a couple of things. When you bring it into Resolve, are you using Resolve color management or some other workflow? That would be number one. And then number two would be, what monitor are you using? Is it an iMac or is it a LG monitor? What monitor is it? Because if the monitor can't resolve color accurately, that may be part of the problem. And then the last thing would be, are you using a 1D LUT or a 3D LUT? And a 1D LUT gives you the feeling of less control, but it has all the information you need to color correct your image. And a 3D LUT actually give you an approximation. And that's a way deeper subject that hopefully we'll be able to tackle in the future. But what I'm going to suggest is that if you're using a 33 grid 3D LUT and you're not seeing the results that you need, then maybe bump up to the next higher tier, which I think is, what is it, 65? I don't remember what the next number is, but bump up and then see if that makes a difference, because that approximation that I'm talking about, you can then begin to view that approximation, because it's really guessing anytime that there's a tonality shift or change. So anytime that you see gradients, which skin tones are full of, or light fall off, it's guessing. And what you want to try to do is create less of a guess, and increasing the grid decreases the guessing. And I know I'm butchering it, so hopefully we can tackle that in the future. Loud and clear. Thanks for joining, man. Really appreciate it. So, Loud and Clear is another professional that you all should, when he comments, you all should pay attention. So, really appreciate the fact that you take the time to catch my content and then also contribute to the community post. So, I really appreciate that. Let's see here. Max, you simply want the 1DX Mark III to match a C500 Mark II, and that would devalue the C500 Mark II. No, Max, I don't really want that, because the truth is, for me, that the form factor of the 1DX Mark III doesn't work. I love the fact that it is weather sealed and weather resistant, and that it can shoot RAW, and so many things that I like about that camera. But that's not the right camera for me. The R5 is the right camera for me. And really, I guess if what you're getting at is that I want to save money, the answer is yes. Because anytime I can keep more money in my pocket, we can get better equipment for guys, we can hire more crew, we can get better computers, we can get better facilities, so on and so forth. So yeah, if I can save money, I'm going to try to save money, if that's what you're getting to. Frosty Flake, another professional that you all need to be paying attention to. This guy is awesome. So Philip Bloom talked about the sharpening, not color correction, low light, and great detail between the FX6 and A7S III. And he is a Sony ambassador. He has 2 hours of content on sharpening issues. So I don't disagree with Philip Bloom. I'm not a Sony ambassador. I can only tell you that from what it is that I'm doing. Okay, so here's maybe the difference. It just dawned on me. And this is going to sound like a shameless plug, and in a way it's going to be, okay? The Sony a7S III is a sharp camera. There is sharpening in it, but you take that digital sharpness edge away by dropping in my Q Cinetone LUT, and all of a sudden life gets really nice. So I'm not Philip Bloom, and I don't shoot without lights, except on these live streams, like I'm doing right now. So while I'm not going to argue with you, Frosty, I will tell you that there is a video that will come out where I'm going to show you 2 images with multiple people in them in a high dynamic range situation. And I am willing on betting $100 right now that you won't be able to tell me which of those 2 images came from the Sony a7S III instead of the FX6. So I'm willing on putting my money where my mouth is. And I've already seen it, so I'm purposely telling you that I'm cheating when I'm making this bet. And if I'm totally wrong, I'm going to make the files downloadable so that you all can check them out on your own system and then come back into the comments and tell me how wrong I am. That's how sure I am about saying that the Sony a7S III, the FX3, and the FX6 globally match. And yes, I'm cheating with Q Cinetone to make all the cameras share in the non-sharpness. So that is a cheat that I'm doing. Let's see here. Loud and clear. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that there, loud and clear. Appreciate it. And Frosty is having a conversation, so that's also really cool. Vanity shape. What will offend on social media platform is the shallow depth of field look. Many who shoot only for social media should invest in cameras but less in glass after going for their only cam upgrade. Yeah, I'm a big believer in investing in lenses. And you know what? That's actually going to transition me into a comment that I saw where someone said, I have an ongoing problem. Like my first problem was Blackmagic. You all know, I said exactly what my problem is. And now you all know that I don't trust Blackmagic to work with my clients. That's the reason why I don't use Blackmagic cameras. And I'm not taking anything away from what they're capable of doing. And then I made what I thought was a YouTube short, because that's what it said on my app when I uploaded it, but it went straight through the entire channel, apparently, where I said I sold $20,000 worth of Canon lenses. Well, the lenses, I paid $48,000 for the lenses. Only 2 lenses, compact CNE lenses. So the 2 compact CNE lenses that Canon makes, I bought when they released them. I paid full price for them. I sold both of them for $20,000. So I got a $20,000 check for those 2 lenses. Why did I sell them? Is it because I'm jumping ship away from Canon? No, it's because those 2 lenses only cover super 35 millimeter sensors. And other than Comodo, which I don't even, because I'm using a focal reducer on Comodo, I don't shoot super 35 format anymore. Everything that we're doing is full frame. So those 2 lenses sat on the shelf way longer than they should have. And they really should have gone to someone that could do something with them, which is why I sold them. So now you all know what happened. Let's see. Jacob, your channel is clearly targeted to pro-level creators. As such, I am not too sure how big in terms of pure quality of viewers you will get. But we all sure learn tons of gold info together. Well, thank you. I think that's a really nice compliment, Jacob. I really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing that loud and clear. Speaking of streaming, when I attend a Zoom meeting and image professional in a room and non-professionals, my feed must be superior in quality to theirs 100% of the time. Real cameras, lights, mic. And you know what? They do notice. And what's really interesting, so I have a client in Germany that I sat through one of these, and I was using a red camera on a Zoom call. Why? Because it was already set up, right? I wasn't flexing because the client doesn't really care. But they were like, boy, your image looks really good. And I was thinking, well, that's cool. It's a red camera. You don't know that, but it's a red camera. They're like, and your sound sounds really good. And your lights, like, how are you doing all this? And I'm like, you know, I'm talking to you from the studio. So like, what do you expect? It's set up. They're like, but your lips seem to be off a little. And I was like, so everything was fine, but they found something to nitpick and something I couldn't control, because at the time when this was happening, Zoom didn't have a way of creating a delay for the audio to match the video. And I remember thinking, so all of a sudden, it doesn't matter that I'm on a red camera with great lighting and good audio, they can see the frame and a half that I'm behind on moving my lips, and that bothered me. So I had to find a fix for that, and I did. But it's really interesting because clients do notice. Carlos, are you talking about shooting FX6 A7S3 in S-Log3 or S-Cinetone? So I have my own technical creative LUT that I call Q, like my last name, Quintero, Q Cinetone. And I call that before S-Cinetone, of all things. So it's kind of confusing, but basically what I do is when I capture in S-Log3, S-Gamma3 Cine, my next correction, or my first correction, is Q Cinetone Technical LUT, and then I make the rest of the corrections. So that's what I'm talking about, loud and clear. Let's see. Thank you, Frosty. Appreciate the compliment. Video maker Diego, thanks for stopping by, dude. You're in Brazil. That's awesome. Just really, I love the fact that we can talk to people from the UK, from Canada, from South America, the US. This is just so awesome. So really appreciate it. Reed, let's see. I just sold my C500 Mark II and EF lenses, now considering going Sony FX6 and S3 or R5 and C70, what would you suggest? So the FX6 is a great camera. I think if you're going that's so tough. Like, I guess what was the problem with the C500 Mark II? I would need to know what that issue was that you're trying to solve in order to make a recommendation. Because honestly, there isn't a set that I can't jump on with my C500 Mark II and get exactly what I need at all. I don't care if it's Netflix, TV, broadcast, social media of any kind, live streaming, live production, documentary. I just shot 2 documentaries with 3 C500 Mark IIs. So I guess I need to know what you're trying to fix before I can give you sort of my take on it. 8K-ish, okay. Hi Carlos, have you considered purchasing the upcoming Canon R5C? So the only way that Canon is getting more money from me at this point is if they could simplify my workflow, optimize my workflow, consolidate my media choices, or manage my color pipeline. If any of those don't happen, then I'm done. Like, I'm settled. I have a C500 Mark II, I have a C70, and I have an R5. What could those possibly not get me? And I don't think any new camera, even if it's an 8K native camera that doesn't overheat, I don't really want to be locked into an 8K workflow if I don't have to. And with shrinking budgets, that I don't have to is becoming more normal. So yeah, I guess that's really the truth of it for me. Let's see. Oh my God, can a LUT sharpen video? A LUT can sharpen video, except my Q-Cinetone LUT unsharpens video, because the C500 Mark II, the C70, the R5, they're all a little sharp for my taste with the lens choices that I'm using. So Q-Cinetone helps me take away the digital edge. Let's see. I don't know what that means. Foodie, thanks for that. I just want to say thanks for your likes and responses. What lenses and accessories would you choose to add to a 2-camera R5 kit for production you currently run, assuming you only had those 2 cameras? If I only had those 2 cameras, I would 100% go the Canon RF lens route. Whichever RF lens you throw at it, the 24-105 is an exceptional lens. I love that lens. The RF 85mm, beautiful lens. 50mm, beautiful lens. I like primes a lot, and those would be my choices. Let's see here. I think you talk about C70 more than Canon. That's one of the newer cameras. So lately, yes. But overall, I think I've talked a lot about Canon cameras. If you look at my history. Australia too. Anthony, thanks for joining from Australia. That's awesome. Organism MX from Haiti, thanks for joining. Really appreciate it. And I know you and I had a little discussion. I just need you to know that I appreciate the feedback. I really do. And, you know, I'm doing the best at just being me. And hopefully everybody knows that feedback from me, even when it's not what I want to hear, I'm learning from it. And that's the truth. So thank you for taking the time to share a piece of your day with me. I really appreciate it. Conrad from Trinidad and Tobago, That's awesome, dude. Thanks, and shout out to all of you out there. Really appreciate you joining. Sarvana in India. This is awesome. Like, this is just terrific. How many countries have we counted so far? And Vanity Shapes in Poland. So that's another a really good one. Canon release R5, R6. They said on YouTube that the 8 EVF IBIS on non-IS RF lenses is possible because of bigger image circle, more space for IBIS. To prepare for medium format lenses, can we use medium format lenses on the R5? I guess I don't know that, and Vanity Shape would know that, so maybe we can all hit him up for him to make a video about it or answer those questions. What full frame cine lenses are you going to get? I'd like to invest in some, but I carry both Canon and Sony in my arsenal. So I'm investing in Tokina primes, and they're expensive, but that is the collection that I want to build out. That's where I want to live. And here recently, I saw a set of 3 size zoom lenses that cover full frame that are also very expensive, and I would consider them. But that's kind of the direction that I'm headed. I don't know how many years it's going to take me to get there, but that's kind of what I'm hoping for. I personally like mist filters to take away the digital edge. Yeah, absolutely. Mist filters, Glimmer Glass, Hollywood Blackmagic, they all do a really, really good job. If you have skin tones in your shot, and your client's going to love you for them. Let's see, Hunter Williams, how do you feel about the Canon M5? I haven't used it, so I don't know. I don't know. I think I had like one of the M5 versions, but I only kept it for a very small amount of time. And when I bought it, my hope was that that would become my Instagram TV camera because of how compact it is, easy to set up. It didn't cost a lot of money. I can have more than one in more than one location, so on and so forth. And it's just Instagram TV, as you all may know. I think it didn't take off. I feel like it didn't work, and it definitely didn't for me. So when that happened, I actually gave my M5, I think it was the M50, not the M5. They were M50s, and I gave them away. So I didn't keep them because I like my full frame cameras better. Let's see. Thank you for that, Organism MX. Read, stop working for major work and work independently now. Don't need raw or major cameras and looking to go into the mirrorless with smaller footprint. So that's another big point. Like, and I mentioned it in the series, but the demand for quality, but still quantity content is getting bigger, which really means, you know, for example, if we were doing, say, one shoot and it was going to take 6 hours and it was a corporate shoot, we'd set up a location, we have maybe 2 setups in a whole day. Now we're being asked to do 6 setups in 3 hours. In bigger cameras, like RED cameras, for example, they don't fit that workflow. They just don't. And also, we can't roll in with 5 people to do that many setups. So the smaller footprint thing is real. And mirrorless cameras, and cameras like the FX6 and the C70 really could like impact that game a lot. So I totally understand, and now it makes sense why you got rid of the C500 Mark II. Totally understand. Paris, France. See another country. This is really awesome. Thank you very much for joining. Louis from Canada and Vancouver. We're going to Vancouver next spring. So if it works out, Louis, maybe we can meet up. That'd be really awesome. Baylin TV, I know this is a little off topic, but would you recommend any tripod for video around $500? So here's what I'm going to say about inexpensive tripods in general. Video centric heads, so video tripods, the legs themselves, sub 500, absolutely you're going to find some. Quality video heads, you're probably going to struggle. And what that really means is that if you need to do a pan tilt combination, or anything else like change payloads, right? Like if you're one day shooting with a Sony FX6 and another day you're shooting with a fully rigged out with a compact zoom C500 Mark II, there has to be a way to balance that camera on that video head. And the inexpensive ones do a horrible job at that, if they can even do it. So if your budget is $500 today, and you could hold out, whether it be a month or 2 or 3, and extend that into a $600 or $700 or $1,000 budget, you're going to thank yourself, because I have been using the same video heads on my tripods for more than 10 years. So it's worth waiting if you can. And if you can't, then consider renting. That might be a better bridge towards what you can actually use long term. And I'm a big fan of Miller tripods and Miller video heads because of the footprint and how great they are. The ZO lenses, are they any good? Are they worth it? These ZO lenses are nice. Are they any good? For a budget lens, yes. I would pick these ZO lenses 10 out of 10 times over any Rokinon lens or Tokina. And I know that there are some copies of Tokina lenses that are nice. I'm not a Tokina fan. And I'm talking about the zooms, not the cine ones either. Just to be really clear. Let's see here. All things film. Oh, okay. So I think he did mean the M50, because I don't know what an M5 is, but maybe there is an M5. I don't know. I remember you said you used the M50 on Safari, but the weather shouldn't did it. Yeah. In fact, I took it. Yeah, you're right, Louis. So I did use it on the Safari. When it started raining, I had to put it away, and I went to my 1DX Mark II, I think is what I had with me at the time. Reckless Badger, second hand tripod is the best bet. Yeah, if you could get some, those are really actually nice. They last for so long, and you can check them before you buy them. That's actually really good advice. Really good advice. Let's see. I wrote that the new Canon RF lenses, those with ADVF. Yeah, vanity shape, I know it's really late for you, so thank you, and I appreciate you taking the time to stop by and comment, as always. Let's see, Matt. Hey, Matt from Australia. Good to see you, man. Let's see here. I was looking at the M52 for TikToks because of the vertical video, but now I'm looking at the FX3. FX3 gives you the ability to step into full frame from the start, which really means you don't have to evolve your lens purchases, right? So like it's easy and tempting to buy crop sensor lenses when you have a crop sensor camera. And eventually we all grow, right? So eventually you'll grow into full frame, and all of those lenses, you'll have to use them in crop mode on your new camera. So it's, I don't know, I feel like if you could stretch the budget and go full frame from day one, you begin learning and understanding the depth of field challenges, the rack focus challenges, and all these other things that happen because of the full frame depth of field differences between crop frame and full frame, and you only buy lenses once. So it might be worth it. Okay, let's see. Genzo, what's the best camera to pair with the C70 that matches color seamlessly? I'm looking at AB cam to the C70. The best camera to match with the Canon C70, hands down, is a second C70. If you can make that budget work, you will not regret it. It's not a cop-out answer either. It's the truth. Good night, and thank you, Vanity Shape. Let's see here. Thanks for the advice. I will save my money and buy it right. It's always better to save than it is to spend more, because then you're going to take a hit when you sell it, right? So just think of it that way. The CNE Cine Primes are a sweet spot between budget, quality for me. I love them. I love them too, loud and clear. The Primes for me are still, I used to have 2 sets. I only have 1 set now. But I only have 1 set because I love them. And I am tempted by their Sumire counterparts. And it's like, for the price, they're just so good to pass up. But I'm wanting to buy a set of lenses that will carry me the rest of my career, which is why I'm thinking of going this other weird route that's really, really expensive. Cool, you guys talking amongst yourselves. That's awesome. Can you recommend a used Canon model that shoots 4K 10-bit? Used Canon model that shoots the C200, if you're willing on having a raw workflow. That's probably actually the most affordable one, which is kind of a sleeper camera, but it's the most affordable one, I think, is the C300 Mark II. Beautiful camera, beautiful image, 10-bit, and it'll do 12-bit if you want. It's 4K, and it allows you to output RAW externally. That might be a sleeper camera, because that camera is beautiful. And I really did enjoy owning that camera for a long time. Let's see here. William, always nice to see you. William's in Texas, guys. Another pro. He's an educator. Love this guy. Always contributes deep, hard-hitting facts in the comments. So be sure to check out his comments. So Carlos, on the chat, in your previous video, someone said the C200 and now had, I missed it. Sorry, too slow. Now at 10-bit, really, is that true? If I understand it correctly, the C200 has not received 10-bit in anything other than RAW, which it always had it, because you can choose to do that. Because you're capturing 12-bit, and when you bring it in Resolve, you're taking that 12-bit linear and turning it into 10-bit RAW. So I think it's misinformation if someone thinks that they can capture in codec, not RAW, 10-bit on the C200, and I don't think I'm mistaken about that. Tommy Lee, yes, large format full frame a lot more difficult in regards to getting things in focus due to depth of field. That's definitely true. So Tony, that's actually why, for me, when I want to shoot wide open, which to me wide open is F2 or T2. That's wide open on full frame for me. I don't like shooting faster than that or wider, because then my depth of field is like razor thin, where even in like the way that I'm framed up now, one eye will be in focus, the other one will be out of focus. So I like to shoot at T2 or F2. because of that exact issue. Lewis, if you could pick up a C70 versus FX3 in the utility to match with more Sony cameras in the ecosystem, is the C70 worth the Canon taxes? So the C70, in my opinion, is the perfect bridge camera. So it's a camera that allows you not to have to sell all of your Canon EF lenses. It's a camera that allows you to buy a super 35mm sensor camera that can behave like a full frame camera on all your old Canon lenses. So you see, these are very big benefits to people that have been Canon shooters for years and who have huge Canon lens collections like this guy. So it's a perfect bridge camera. And it also then allows me to build up my RF lens collection and use them natively and fall in love with the usability, how silent they are, how fast they are, how sharp they are, how little, if any, problems they can bring to set on this camera. The only thing that it can't do with RF lenses is utilize the fact that RF lenses are full frame. So it's the perfect bridge camera. So what I would say is, if you're staying within the Canon ecosystem, whether it be because of your lens collection, because of other cameras or other type of work that you do, the C70 is a better choice. If you don't have a lens collection, it's a toss-up. You can't go wrong with either camera. And if you have a Sony lens collection, or you're thinking about adding on additional cameras down the road, you're better protected today going Sony. That's a tough way to answer that question, but it's true. Matt, I finally picked up a C500 Mark II this month. Is this camera future-proof? The C500 Mark II is a beautiful camera that can step today onto any set. You could do weddings, you could do events, you could do live broadcasts, you could do commercial production, you could do corporate work, you could do long-term editorial stuff, you could do documentaries. That camera, I think that at least for the next, I'm going to say 5 to 6 years, it's going to be difficult to top that camera. And it's full frame. So no matter what you throw at it, the C500 Mark II effectively competes and, in my opinion, beats, and I've proven this in my own test on my own channel, against my own red helium camera. I don't know that camera anymore, just so that you all know, full transparency. I moved up from helium to Monstro because of that test. Because the C500 Mark II outperformed the red 8K helium. That's a super 35mm sensor camera, whereas the C500 Mark II is a full frame camera. And that really was the tipping point in going full frame for everything that we do. So full transparency. Let's see here. You're wise beyond your years. I'm actually kind of old. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but, and I don't even know if you guys care, but I'm on the back end of my 40s. I'm 49, so I'm like at that final stretch before I hit 50. For whatever that's worth, and I don't even know why I share that, but hey, it's a tell-all episode, so there we go. In fairness, I use full frame EF lenses on Sony mirrorless bodies all the time, and they work great. So I don't know why, and this loud and clear, I'm not going to agree with you because of, I think I'm spoiled at this point is really what's happening. But when I use the Metabones adapter on my Sony cameras to bring my EF glass onto them, oh, you know what? That's not fair. If it's a manual lens, 100% it performs exceptionally well, exactly as it would on a Canon camera. If I expect autofocus to work, say I was bringing in my 24 to 70 f2.8 or something, and I was trying to adapt it onto a Sony body, then I lose autofocus. So so I take back what I started saying. You're right, Sony lenses or Canon lenses, EF lenses, adapted onto Sony cameras when they're manual, so like the CNE lenses, absolutely perform terrific on Sony cameras. 10 out of 10 times, completely agree. Let's see. There's no such thing as future-proof, and that is the truth, right? Evolution and the need to resell services, products, information, and move markets forward really means even if they have to repackage something and give it a slightly different name and maybe improve something marginally in a different area, like maybe noise performance, we're always going to continue to see new, better, newer, and they're going to sell it to us if we're willing on paying for it. Absolutely. Let's see here. Conrad, you spoke about the Tokina Vista Primes. You're going with PL or EF mount? PL. I'm going PL for my next lens set for sure. I just turned 30 and I thought you were 35. Bless you always. Yeah, so I'm a little bit older than that. Let's see. The Sigma MC11 works better than the Metabones, but yeah, and maybe I need to try that. I bought the Cine version of the Metabones and thinking that maybe performance-wise would be better, but it didn't make a difference. What's your thoughts on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro versus Sony a7S III or other small mirrorless DSLRs? Yes, I don't care for autofocus, LOL. So it would make it unfair for me to respond or answer this completely because I haven't tried the Pocket 6K Pro. I think that both of those cameras are really good for what they do. I like being able to capture RAW internally, so that's really appealing to me on the Blackmagic side. I have trust issues against Blackmagic, which will make all of my Blackmagic comments biased against them. That's as transparent as I can be about it. But Blackmagic RAW in Resolve flies. And if workflow is important, that might be worth the gamble. Let's see here. Talking about lens collection, is it worth investing in Canon Cinema Primes with EF mount for workflow and performance, even though twice the cost of autofocus glass? So what you gain when you go with Canon CNE lenses over their stills lens counterparts are better coatings and coatings that match across all the focal lengths. In other words, on Canon stills lenses, let's say camera 1 is shooting with a 24 to 70 f2.8 compact zoom, and camera B is shooting with a 70 to 200 version 2 or 3, it doesn't matter, IS f2.8 zoom lens. The coatings between those two lenses are not going to be identical. They're not going to match. So color is going to vary, even if both cameras are C300 Mark IIIs, C500 Mark IIs, C70s, because the lenses are not matched to one another. Whereas with the compact CNEs, if you put a 135 millimeter or a 14 millimeter or an 85 or a 50 it doesn't matter, a 24, a 35, it doesn't matter. The color is going to be consistent across the entire focal length. So no matter which CNE you put on the camera, if it's the same camera, two C70s for example, you're not going to have color variances. And that's what you're paying for, in addition to the same diameters. So your filters are all going to be matched. Your matte boxes are all going to be matched. Your iris, generally speaking, across, like, say the 50, 24, 50, 85, the T-stop is going to be the same. You know, when you go the extremes like 14 or 135, it's going to vary. But with all the ones that are common, your T-stop is going to be the same. So if you have multiple angles or you need to change out those lenses, you don't need to re-rig all your lighting because you can shoot at the same T-stops. And that's really valuable too. So is it worth the money? I'm going to say that to me, in the production work that I do, the answer is yes. And I think a lot of people can benefit from not having to re-rig or redo their lighting setups because of how much time that takes. So for what it's worth, I'm going to say yes. Let's see. Thanks for personal insight. Thank you, Conrad. Appreciate it. Tony, biggest issue with Blackmagic design cameras is their quality assurance. Absolutely. 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 That's why I have trust issues. Loud and clear. What's said about the CNE lenses also gained is that they are the same size. Yep, same size, same gears. Everything that takes changing out your rigging in any way, whether it be lighting, your setups, your supports, whatever, anything that you don't have to change because you change your focal length, is a win. And that's what Loud and Clear is saying. So absolutely agree. Tony, usually Cineglass also gets higher quality glass from manufacturers. That's also true. Yep. Higher quality glass, higher quality coatings, way better dealing with flares. Absolutely. The markings, yes, until you use a focal reducer, and then, you know, it goes by the wayside. So guys, I am really thankful that we've done this. I hope I was clear. I hope if you all thought I was jumping ship from Canon, you all know that I really just wanted to kind of light a little bit of a fire under Canon's butt so that they know some of the issues that we face and they think about us as they develop new products. Because I think if they do that, we all win. And also, if anyone thought that I hated Sony, you all now know that I have a lot of respect and value and praise for what Sony is doing for this market. And I'm beginning to understand it now that I actually am using their products. So again, I think it's a win-win for all of us. We've been at this for 1 hour and 33 minutes. So I'm going to say thank you, good night, and I'll catch up with you guys in the comments. And we may or may not do another series. We may or may not do another, you know, something like daily videos. But I want to thank every single one of you all who participated, because you all are what made it valuable. And whenever you share that you feel like I do, it's not just validating what I'm saying, because that doesn't even matter. It's helping echo a message to the powers that be, whether it be us praising Sony or whether it be us letting Canon know that this is how they can help us. Again, thank you all. Really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. And we'll catch up with you guys later. Have a good rest of your weekend. Take care.
sugar sweet.